Tonto, don't go to town. They're going to beat you up again, man. Just one time. Tonto, yes, Kemo-san, you go to town. You go to hell, Kemo-san.
You're listening to the podcast, So There I Was. It's how all great aviation tales begin. This is episode 40. You can't be married.
You can't be married?
That's what they say.
Episode 40.
40, hard to believe.
It is hard to believe. Boy, it was fun. What a great storyteller. Kemo, a lot of energy, very animated. And unfortunately, we didn't get to all his stories. Kind of ran out of time, so we're going to have him back.
We'll get there. We'll have him back and chat some more. But he was a first in many ways. He was the first NavCad, which meant that he was junior throughout his career.
Very junior. As a matter of fact, he'll tell the story, but basically he didn't get his date of rank until the day he got his wings.
Right.
And that's so he was
unusual
junior.
Part of that program. He also had the advantage, though, of going to flight school before he got his degree, unlike the rest of us who had to get our countless degree before they let us in.
That's true. And that's actually a pretty good story, too. He was so close to finishing, and he was locked into one commissioning source, our commissioning source, as a matter of fact. Anyway, that's a good story. I'm not going to ruin it.
Went on and served with our guest from last week, Nasty, was in the same squadron with him, flying F-14s. And then from there, he went on to fly with those guys that practice fighting all the time. I guess they get really good at it.
Well, yeah, if you want to say to be a Top Gun aggressor pilot and Top Gun instructor, you got to be good. Well, I think he was good. He had some aptitude, obviously, right?
Absolutely.
And great stories.
Some really great stories. It was a lot of fun to listen to him. His stories are amazing. It's clear that we've got a lot more to go, so we will have Kemo back at some point in the near future. But in the meantime, we'll stop flapping our gums.
Don't sit on the injection handle.
This here is a true story.
Enjoy.
Here comes Kemo.
Crossing the pond at night in the world's smallest cockpit on the tanker through the weather. Oh, and to the tanker crew who did that. Thanks a lot. We really appreciated that.
I'm just kidding.
I'm just kidding.
No, I'm not.
Well, there I was crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond.
So there I was.
That's how all great aviation tales begin. Welcome, everyone. You're listening to the podcast, So There I Was. This is RePete here, coming to you live from New Hampshire tonight, or recorded from New Hampshire tonight, depending on when you're listening to this. I'm here tonight with my co-host, Fig. Take it away, my friend.
Hey, buddy. I am also mostly live from Kansas City, and we have a very special guest with us tonight.
Nice.
Kemo. Welcome, Kemo.
Thank you, gents. It's glad to be here. Glad to see you guys.
We are making history tonight. RePete. I don't know if you're aware of this or not. Kemo, besides being a naval aviator, Navy fighter pilot extraordinaire, is our very first NavCad that I'm aware of.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I can't wait
what
to hear
the hell
this.
is that? No.
I know. I can't wait to hear all this.
Right?
Oh,
Find out what
story.
a NavCad is and how
Well,
one
welcome,
gets there and all
Kemo.
that.
Welcome, my
Yeah.
friend. Where are you coming to us tonight from?
Thank you. Coming to you from the high mountains of Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Outstanding.
Very nice.
Truth in Lending Clause. Kemo and I are personal friends. We work at the same company. However, I didn't know Kemo on active duty, but I'm sure we crossed paths a couple times and didn't even know it.
I agree.
So let's start with, how did Kemo get interested in aviation? Why? I mean, everybody's got a story. So what's yours?
Where I got interested in aviation was from my father. It was very interesting because he had no aviation, anything. He was actually, I'll never tell you, but he was an Air America guy back in the day. And on the admin side, not a pilot by any trade, but I was about 6 years old, well past that era of his life. And the air show was in town. And he said, "Come on, son, let's go up and check out these airplanes." And I said, "Okay, great." And we grabbed the ladder. He puts it on the thing. We're going to the roof of the house. And it was kind of this serendipitous thing where as soon as we get to the top of the roof, I look up, and the Blue Angels are in town. This is at Kirtland Air Force Base, and it's A4s. That's so that'll give you a little bit of a time frame reference. But they fly right over as I get to the roof, and I am literally floored by what the hell is that? I have no idea what's going on. Why is it so loud? And no, it's crazy. What's the smoke? And I watched the entire air show because we were pretty close to the base from where we lived, and I was able to watch the whole thing. And that got me hooked. And it was one of those things where at 6 years old, I said, I don't know what that is, but I want to do that. And it touched my soul through my life off and on as I went and progressed and matured and grew up. But like I said, I was first generation military in my family, and first generation anything that had to do with aviation. But it was that moment in time in my life with my father that when we went up to the roof of my house that struck me to be an aviator.
That's pretty awesome. So I had a similar experience. So I was not on the roof of a house, but I could tell you that when I saw, and it was F4s, Blue Angels were flying F4s.
Dear Lord.
And when I saw this happening, like you said, the sound and the smoke, and they were so fast, and I thought, there is not a human in that. That is a godlike creature flying this magical thing, right?
Yeah.
And I aspired to be that creature.
Yep, absolutely.
It's funny how many of us have those kind of stories that we saw that and we were inspired by it and all that. But like a couple of our other guests, I was always like, well, that's something that's out of reach. That's just not something that.
Absolutely. And as I progressed through my adolescence and into high school and into whatnot, I would go off on tangents of things. I want to be an FBI guy. I want to be a cop, whatever, some cool stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, I would get reattached to it in some aspects, like, and it would kind of cage my brain back to that 6-year-old kid on the roof and go, oh, that's the root of it right there. And I was in college, and I initially started, and I remember telling my dad, hey, I think I want to be a pilot, and referred back to that. And he's like, well, join the Air Force. They got airplanes. I mean, that was the level of knowledge for my father, and which was great. And I don't mean that in any disrespect whatsoever.
Sure. Yeah.
So I went to the Air Force ROTC office at the University of New Mexico, and they said, yeah, come on in. So I tried this Air Force ROTC thing out in my freshman year, and I did everything they told me to do and excelled well. And they said, hey, we're going to give you a navigator slot. And I said, what's that? And they told me, I said, I don't want that. Well, and the colonel said, you take this, and in your senior year, you can compete for a pilot slot. And I said, what? That sounds horrible in my mind. I'm like, verbally, I'm saying, yes, sir. Thank you very much. And as I leave, I'm like, oh my God. And as I leave, I'm going to go get some lunch, and I run into the officer selection officer for the Southwest region of the United States Marine Corps, and he convinces me through a guaranteed aviation contract through the platoon leaders class program that I should go that way. And I said, absolutely. So I somehow passed the tests and was able to get in, and I went through the PLC program.
Freshman, sophomore, junior,
sophomore. Yes, the junior senior thing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you're signing up, and you're gonna have to go twice, right?
Right. Correct.
Okay. I'm sorry. Continue.
No worries. So I sign up, and I'm like, and my uncle, an enlisted Marine of many, many years, the Vietnam conflict, ended up coming back and is now a naval officer. Long story as to why. But he kind of guided me. He's like, this is what you do, son. And I said, roger that. And I was able to go to Quantico and got my balls kicked in. Could I say that online?
Sure. Yeah. Well, you just did. It's all
right.
right.
You can't say that.
Can't say. Okay. You can't say
that. Got my rear kicked in by a couple of great Marine Corps drill instructors for juniors and seniors, and was on my way. That was my plan. And when I come back, lots of stories there, but I have a girlfriend at the time, or a girl that I'm really intrigued with.
Where are you going to school?
I'm at the University of New Mexico.
Okay.
In Albuquerque.
And what are you majoring in? Rocket science?
It's a funny thing. My mother told me what I was majoring in, and as a devout follower of my mother's direction, I said yes, ma'am, and was supposed to be a computer engineer, and was hating every minute of my life doing so. And as I got into the Marine Corps, I realized, hey, I could actually make my own decisions. Thank you, leadership, and changed into a criminal justice thing, because at the time I was thinking of doing the law enforcement program and whatnot, and then got into the aviation concept with the platoon leaders course. So I was a criminal justice major, but the overlying concept was I hated the shit out of school. I did not dig this whole school thing. I just wanted out, and I'm in the PLC program. I got a year left. I'm like, okay, I'm going to graduate. I'm going to become a Marine, and if I can blame or owe this to my wife. And she said, meet me for lunch. And I said, oh, you got it. And as I'm walking through the student union building that's where all the chow is and all the the food places and whatnot. I'm rounding the corner, and there's this fat lieutenant NFO recruiter, flag, all this stuff, Navy, Top Gun's playing on these screens in the back. It's 1990. And I'm like, whoa, I kind of stopped. I'm like, oh, there's stickers, kind of like fighter pilot stuff. Hey, Maverick, that's great. And he said, hey, you want to go to flight school? I'm like, oh, hey.
I'm going, bro. I'm going.
I've got this program. I'm good. I got a guaranteed aviation contract, And he said, cool, man. Well, I'm looking for a guy to go. This is March of 1990. It's like, I got a class in June I got to fill. It's crazy. I'm like, well, dude, I don't even have a degree. I don't have my degree yet. So, we shouldn't be talking. And he said, you don't need one. And I said, the wheels did.
Yeah. Whoa, wait, what?
And I said, start talking. So he started talking. He's like, what we could do? We'll just take your package that the PLC program has. We'll just submit it. Let's just submit it and see what they say.
Oh, my gosh.
And if they approve you can be in flight school in 2 months. And I said, okay.
That sounds like a pretty damn good deal. I bet I don't know anything yet about this NAVCAT thing, other than it's called this NAVCAT thing. But I owe it to my wife. Had it not been for me wanting to see her, I never would have found fat body Navy guy to try to recruit me into this thing. So I piss off my OSO because the OSO is like, what the hell? I'm like,
excuse me, sir. Can I borrow my package? I'm sending it somewhere else.
And he put all that, he put all that work into you. And then here you are dropping him like a hot rock.
Yeah. I got, it's like as if Willy Wonka himself came up to me and said, here's your golden ticket. I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you a year early. And I so just wanted out of school. I couldn't stand it anymore. A lot of factors, but I let it happen. So we submitted the package. I got picked up June 4th, 1990. I'm reporting to Pensacola and realized I've got 14 weeks of another drill instructor kicking me in the rear.
Yeah. So you did two summers in Quantico. Is that right? 2 summers?
I did one. I did one. Juniors. Yep. I did one. I graduated from that. They gave me my little EGA iron-on things for our utilities, remember?
Eagle Glow and Anchor.
I'm like ironing those things onto my utilities, going, oh, sweet. Yut. And then this happens. So I get picked up, and next thing you know, I completely piss off my officer selection officer for the United States Marine Corps. And, it is what it is. And I was off as a naval aviation cadet through the officer candidate school program in Pensacola, Florida.
Yep.
Okay. And gosh, a lot of stories branch off from it, but that's how I got there. I can stop there, but there's a story to be had about that.
So before you go into that, I want to know what you need to explain for listeners. NAVCAD.
Sure.
NAVCAD. Explain the program. What's NAVCAD? What's the acronym stand for? And
isn't that the program you use to draw architectural stuff?
That's not that.
Oh, okay.
That's a CAD program.
Okay.
So what's NAVCAD?
Right.
Kemo, what's NAVCAD?
So it stands for Naval Aviation Cadet, and believe it or not, every branch of service had it since Korea. I mean, I was actually friends with as a young child. He was retired 2005 in the Air Force, and he was an aviation cadet as well. So even the Marines had it. It was called MARCAD, and it was a faucet that they turned on. If you had X amount of credit hours and you passed all the tests, they would send you to OCS or AOCS or whatever that is. You would finish that, go to flight school, and when you got your wings, you would get commissioned as a second lieutenant, ensign, whatever. Well, in this era of 1989 to 1990, it was just the Navy that had it, and they needed pilots. Ironically, once I finished and got in, they had too many pilots, and then there was a huge rift in like 1990. But anyways, that's another story. Something. But that's what the program was, and they basically paid you half of an O1 salary, which was actually less than an E1 salary, plus flight pay of whatever that was. And you couldn't have any dependents. You had to live in the BOQ. You had to eat at the chow hall. There was a lot of these things. You couldn't get married. You couldn't have any dependents until you were winged and an officer in the United States Navy.
Okay.
So, and that was funny. That was the thing. So I swear in this program to go to flight school and all this stuff. And after I swear in, they're like, hey, hey, just so you know, if you bong this up in any way, if you wash
you're
out,
now a sailor. You're in the Navy now. You're
a non-rated E4 for 2 years. And I said, okay, because I have no idea what that means.
Yeah,
right. Okay, whatever.
So, but 8 weeks later, I'm in Pensacola. I'm shining my shoes, and it's a 4-man room, and there's some prior guys and whatnot. And I was like, hey, listen, what is this non-rated E4 thing? And they looked at me like, are you retarded? And I'm like, I have no idea what this is.
Apparently I am.
So in Pensacola, which we all went through that, aviation indoctrination stuff. So the F4 is out there and whatnot. And so we're looking at the battalion window, and one of the prior guys goes, come here. So he grabs me and he picks me up and he points at this guy. And there's this guy on the corner of the street painting the yellow paint on the corners of the curbs and whatnot. And he's like,
can't park.
He's like, that's probably a non-rated E4 right there. And I was like, shit. So it was instantaneous inspiration to succeed. And I said, I don't care. I'll take a dirigible, a hang glider, some sort of kite. Just get me through the program.
Right.
And I had no experience in flying whatsoever. I literally.
You just answered one of my next questions. So zero flight time before you went to.
I was zero flight time. I had one. In the PLC program, they'd have some sort of Marine aviator come out and
take you on a ride.
In a 152 or 172, take you on a ride and give you some sort of inspiration. And I had that. That was my one thing that made me go, wow, that's kind of cool.
Okay.
And I got to flight school. It was zero, and it was just. I think my whole life has been nothing but luck and timing, like minimal skill, luck and timing, and I was able to do
be lucky than good.
You're describing my career to a T.
Yeah, well, that's what happened. I showed up going, I have no idea what's going on, and the only thing that got me through was, well, a lot of things. Luckily in Corpus,
fear of painting curbs.
Yeah, the fear of painting curbs, hoping that I could at least, I don't know, is there a hang gliding squadron out there? I could probably do that.
Right.
But my wife at the time was she was awesome. She's the only reason why I made it through flight school. I mean, I went through Pensacola and then ended up in Corpus at the Boomers. And when I was down there, I'm at the BOQ, and she would just sit there and quiz me all the time.
Well, hold on a second. Wait. Hold on a second.
I'll stop.
Did you just say? Was she your girlfriend at the time or your wife? Because the way you laid it out for me, it sounded like you couldn't be married or you couldn't look twice at a woman or anything like that.
Thank you. Always ask the right questions, but
I'm perceptive.
Yeah, so I was a NAVCAT. I could not be married, and we were supposed to be married because I was going to be a Marine officer. So I have officially requested marriage of this young lady. She approved, and we were going to get married. And then the whole NAVCAT thing happened, and I actually had to tell her, so listen, this is great. I'm going to go to flight school. Honey, that's wonderful. Yeah, but there's a catch. What's that? We can't get married until we get winged. I get winged.
She probably was like, I need to see this in writing because I feel like you're making this shit up.
Yeah, right. So I'm like, baby, I'm serious. We can't get married anymore. And here's the funny part. You ready? She's like, well, that kind of sucks because I'm pregnant.
No, is that for real?
Yeah, it's for real.
No
That
shit.
Yeah. So let's just say that's another chapter for another story somewhere. But needless to say, she was a trooper and made it happen to where I technically, in true legality and full honesty, did not have any dependents. I was not married. I lived in the BOQ and I ate at the chow hall.
Oh my gosh.
Mistakes were made.
Nothing like adding a little extra stress to the whole experience of flight school.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
Because
she was
paying for a wife and a child on an E4's salary.
it was wondermous, I tell you.
Oh,
First had been a pay raise.
Thankfully, Corpus Christi wasn't terribly expensive, and you guys were, I don't know if you were there, but in Corpus, it was affordable. We'd have to get into that, but needless to say, I kept to the rules, and she was a trooper, and I owe my whole entire professional development in life after that to her. So
I have a whole new respect for your bride. A whole
thanks,
new
man.
respect.
Thanks.
Wow. So VT-27 it was for primary.
Yeah, boomers it was. I showed up and I literally was like, I have no what to do. And so we had 60 NAVCADs at the time.
How many? Say that again.
60 naval aviation cadets at the time that went through aviation officer candidate school. In our group, we graduated about 30 after the Marine Corps had their way with us. And once we got out there, I realized, wow, a lot of these guys knew how to fly, and I have no idea what the hell's going on. Luckily, it was a great little brotherhood, as we all know. This whole era this world that we became a part of, and so we're like, dude, go to the sim, get in there, just sit in there and get in the sim and practice this whole thing. And then in those T-34 sims, all I did was memorize everything they told me to do,
Right.
And that got me through the first portion of it. And as you remember, in the T-34, there was 13 flights for the 13 check, and then your solo.
Yeah, the familiarization.
And all I knew was the whole, if you pulled the stick back, houses got smaller, and you pushed the stick forward, houses got bigger. And this left hand was like fast and slow, but I don't know how I did. And I had a couple of on wings or instructors that were wonderful, but in the T-34, it was I had an okay time, but I was very, very stressed. I mean, there was stuff thrown at me from the back cockpit to the front. What the frick are you doing? Holy turd left that. I mean, my idea of a high altitude power loss or a low altitude power loss, the Lapple thing.
Sure.
I remember. Okay, in Pensacola, they said, when I was going through everything, it's like, where should I go? It's like, do you know how to fly? They said no. I said no. They said, good, go to Corpus, because there's way too many course rules at Whiting Field. And I said, sounds good. So I went to Corpus, because if you took off to the east, you hit the water and you turned south. You turned right.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Right into the working area. 500 feet over the high bridge. Go feet wet, left or right
I think
into the working area.
That played into one of our podcasts.
One of our stories,
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the course rules. Do you know the course rules, Anson?
Yeah, no, and so Whiting Field scared the crap out of me. So I was like, "Up, Corpus Christi sounds great," and that helped me out a lot. And once I got down there, it was wonderful. But so it's the intercoastal. It's this huge beach thing. So they're trying to teach you how to go. Hey, power loss. Get the high key. Do this thing. Find your landing area. So I would find my landing area, and for me, I would get to low key at that point and go, well, there's a better landing area in front of me. So I would change my landing area, which would like destroy the whole process. They're like, stop. What are you doing?
There's a runway right there.
Sure, I'm just going to go straight because it's the beach. Look, it's all flat. I'll just go that way. Why do I need to turn? He's like, because you decided your landing area was over there. I was like, yeah, but I changed it. And so I had a hard time with that. But my saving grace was on my 13 check. I had the hammers of all hammers. His name was Fig. No, I'm kidding. It was I can't remember his name, but he was like the known base sledgehammer. And I got him, and luckily we incompleted for weather. So my check ride was incomplete, so therefore no grade possible. But I did so poorly that he was telling me at the end of the flight that you're doing horribly.
It's a good thing the weather didn't. Yeah, right.
Yeah, thankfully the weather canceled me. I went back to my BOQ room at Corpus Christi, and I'm finding chickens to like slaughter and like bleed out, and dice and bones, and I'm trying to get every religion possible involved with my progress. And a few days go by, and somehow through my wife just grilling me on my EPs and
You
everything.
mean your girlfriend, of course.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry, my girlfriend.
Fiance.
Yeah, we'd literally be sitting there, we'd driving, and all she'd look at me, she's like, "Hey, baby." I'm like, "Yeah, what?" She'd say, "Ditching." Huh? Gear up, flaps down, transition to 100 knots, whatever the hell it was.
Right,
She knew
right.
the EPs better than me.
Well,
So I owe it to
that's a good
her.
woman
But
right
anyway,
there.
somehow the circuit breaker got pushed in, and I was able to excel from there. But those first 14 flights for me in flight school was just utter horror.
Well, you must have done pretty damn good, Kemo, because you were able to get jets.
I literally went from this very, very level plane of like, you just kind of don't suck, but you're not enough of a suck factor to fucking fire you, to the circuit breaker gets popped into like, whoop, and it just goes straight up from there. And I literally did the light bulb came on, the circuit breaker popped in, and after my 14, my solo in the T-34, it all just kind of came together.
So instead of a learning curve, you had a learning 90-degree angle.
I had a learning hockey stick.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I mean, I got into formation flying. I was like, oh yeah, bearing line and whatever. Okay, cool. Right there. And it was just bizarre that I went from like, I have no idea what I'm doing to, okay, I get it.
I get it. And then I could do this.
Yeah.
And that's really the difference between guys that go, they get jet grades and guys that get not jet grades. It's not that guys that get jet grades are better pilots. They just pick it up quicker.
Yeah,
I get it.
Right.
And I don't know what to I don't know what to attribute it to. I just attribute it to luck and skill and timing, and probably, I'm sure, good instruction. But I had a lot of good mentorship from the bros. The bros were just because they knew, one, I didn't make any money. Two, they bought me all the beers. Three, I could only drink on base because I was 19, 20 years old as a NavCad. And as they were going to everything downtown, I was stuck on the base. So everybody took care of me. It was really, really good. I mean, we had a bunch of guys down there, and a lot of us, it was great. I never had a bad time through my entire process. So
where'd you go to advanced?
I went to Kingsville, which was great because my girlfriend had family in Kingsville, and that's another kind of strange story. But let's just say on her side of the family, there was a lot of links to the King Ranch, and which I didn't know about.
Yeah,
but all I can say is this: the hunting was wonderful, and the family was great, and had a lot of good times on our off time. And all of my buddies, we went hunting all the time. And it was Kingsville was a wonderful, wonderful existence for me.
And what intermediate squadron were you in?
I went to VT-23, so I was in the boomers. Then when I went to Kingsville, I went to the T2 squadron, VT-23. I can't remember what it's called. And then I went to VT-22.
Yeah, the Eagles. The Eagles.
And Scooter was the current squadron, if you remember that name. And Rauch, Dutch was the Commodore.
So he was the Commodore when I got there.
Okay.
Yeah, he was May of '93. He was the Commodore. Yeah.
So check this: when we were getting winged, we ended up getting gold wings for our legit gold wings for our chest
for the winging.
Yeah, so we're like, don't put those on because we're going to go up to the club in a second, and everybody's going to be punching us, right? So let's not do that. But so Dutch was our Commodore. What a great thing! I can't remember. There's about 10 of us, and we had a few Harrier guys. I just don't know their call signs, so I don't know if I can use their last names. But
yeah, we're okay for that. I mean, it's when you're when you got bad stuff to say about somebody, you want to say their name and or their company. So Roger
that. Nothing bad to say. We've got a few guys. So between Harriers and Hornets, we had a good group of guys, and I somehow, like I said, out of sheer luck, I wanted to fly Tomcats out of the West Coast. It was just that whole, whether it was the Maverick thing or what, I grew up.
It was totally the Maverick thing. Come on, bro. It was totally the Maverick thing.
Well, I did the whole volleyball thing for a couple times and realized that I sucked at it. And so I figured Probably
I'll
should do
never
that.
get Tomcats.
I am never going to fly Tomcats. It's terrible.
I can't spike the ball over the net. I'll never get
I might
Tomcats.
I might as well shoot for Hornets because I can just sit there and the plane will do everything. You know what I mean? But anyways, I got winged in August of 1992 and then got shipped out to Miramar where I was going to class 99401 Delta, which I had no idea. There's a difference between, as you've in your previous podcasts, you have the A in the Tomcat and the D in the Tomcat. I had no idea what it was. All I knew is I was getting Tomcats West Coast, and I was like, my childhood dream has been realized. I'm going to go touch myself in the closet for about 5 minutes. And it was the most, I can't tell you how happy I was because I didn't think I had the capability to do that. I didn't know what I was going to get, but I figured I'd get. When you get to jets back in the day, nowadays the 21st century, if you get jets, you're going to get a Super Hornet.
Yeah,
right.
Period.
Yep.
So there's no. But back in that day, as you all were there,
there was a lot. There was a lot of different things you could.
I got
get.
an S3. I've got
A6s, EA6s.
Yeah, and my big thing was like, okay, if I do too well at the boat, I'm going to get the family truckster, the EA6B, or there's this S3 thing. Dear God, or what? I just want something with that go. I want something that drops things, that goes boom, or kills something. There's too many choices,
and it goes fast.
A7 went away. The A6s are pretty much gone, and so A4s were gone. There was a couple options to go to the Philippines and fly A4s. Anyways, it worked out to where I got it, and when I showed up. Whiskey was the OPSO of 124, the gunfighters of Miramar, and I show up and I kind of do the, sir, Ensign Percival reporting authority. He's like, shut up, dude, come in. What are you talking? Stop, I walk in, he's like, you're class 9401 Delta, get out of here and go start studying. I was like, roger that. Well, the Delta portion was the indication of the D, vice the A squadrons, which was the death trap. I hope you survive your tour. Squadron of
underpowered airplane,
right?
Great.
All right, so just in quick bullet form, difference between A's and D's. We've had several F-14 guys on here. Just give us your take.
So
bullets.
in the caveman NavCAD version, not smart test pilot kind of conversation,
right? Yeah,
the A was a death trap with a TF30 motor that produced 30,000 pounds of thrust. Two motors, 30,000 pounds of thrust total in a 45,000 pound airplane.
Ooh, okay.
Or you could have the D, which had 60,000 pounds of thrust in a motor that you could like chuck frozen turkeys through, and all it would do was it would be like a flicker on your indications, because
same weight though, same aircraft weight. So you had better than a 1-to-1 thrust to weight ratio then.
Yeah. So you had this beautiful motor, and I was ignorant, thank God, to the TF30, other than watching my classmates that were flying those. That TF30 was not designed to be a part of the F-14. That was something from the F-111 days or whatnot. That was the Ronco. That was the Ronco set it and forget it motor. If you put it in mill, leave it there.
Ronco.
Don't touch it, because if you moved it, you're going to compressor stall, spin the plane, do something, lose your motors, and there's a whole world of trouble.
So that's what Maverick was flying.
I was going to say you'd be in a flat spin headed out to sea if you aren't careful.
Exactly. And in the D. I remember one of our buddies. We were doing bombing runs on somewhere, and he got fragged. I mean, and what ended up to be
fragged himself, or
it was like a level layout. It's like one of these little hook boom bomb skip,
right?
Anyway, all he knows.
Hang on. I'm sorry to interrupt. So frag refers to fragmentation. So he dropped the bomb, and he was too close, and he hit himself with the fragments of the bomb.
Pretty much, and. I remember coming back, and he's like, dude, I got a little indication here. Disregard. Okay. So we come back to the boat. We land, and as he gets out of his airplane, I'm getting chained up. He's getting chained up. I'm looking at him. He's like the ground crew is looking through this intake, and they're like all mouth agape. Whatever, and we go over there, and basically he fragged himself so bad. I mean, you could like see through the engine, but those 110s were so amazing that he came back to the boat without any problems. Now, don't get me wrong. There's been problems with the F-14D or the 110 motor issues from, as in your previous blogs with Jake and whatnot. Yeah, absolute issues with engine seizures and whatnot. But after Jake, I showed up to my squadron, VF-31, best squadron in the world at that time, and we actually engaged in post engine seizure. We actually had afterburner burn through issues that was causing catastrophic issues as well. But another story.
So that's like crossing the streams. That's bad on the good bad scale. So
VF-31 is your first fleet squadron. Is that right, Kemo?
That's correct, Fig. That's correct, Fig.
That's
I think that's where we cross pollinate. Repeat.
Yeah, isn't that Nasty's old squadron?
Yes, sir.
So when you checked into VF-31, Nasty was your XO or your CO?
No. So VF-31 had a wonderful change of command process. When I checked in, Pogo and Barney were the skipper and XO, and Pogo was an amazing man. I'm going to tell you this right now. I checked in. I'm an ensign. I'm 21 years old because of the NavCAD program. Because I checked in. I did the whole.
You were the junior guy by far, right? Because of NavCAD, and you just got commissioned.
Your data rank is the same as your winging. You were brand spanking new.
Holy God, I didn't think about that.
It wasn't good.
He's
so basically,
been in 2 years and he doesn't have any rank yet.
And for the rest of my life, I will be the snacko and every junior rank. They're drinking bullshit job for
the squadron
my whole life.
pecker checker.
Pretty much.
Oh my gosh, I didn't think about that either.
I walk into the ready room, and it's the colors are black and yellow, and it's badass. Felix the Cat's carrying a bomb.
Yes.
I'm like, this is the most badass squadron. This is where I wanted to go. I'm so happy. I walk into the room. The duty officer's there. It's Lieutenant Jungle Sporting Lurch, can't remember. And they look at me like, hey. And I'm like, hey, what's going on? I'm checking in. And he looked at me like, because I'm 21. I mean, I look a little young.
Right.
And they're like,
yeah.
And so remember, did you guys have stashes?
Yeah.
Okay. So they're like interns at the majors, right?
Yeah.
So they checked in, and he's like, and he says, are you a stash? Which is like an ROTC guy that's waiting to go to somewhere.
Right.
Or a guy that's waiting for flight school. And I'm like, no, man, I'm checking in.
Dude. I got the wings.
Yeah.
I'm a new pilot.
Here's my stuff. I'm checking in. So whoever it was, and I wish I could remember, he's like, all I remember is this, like, Skipper! And you hear, like, what? Like, you got to come down here.
Oh, you're in the ready room? Where are you?
In the ready room.
Oh,
so
shit.
Pogo shows up.
Do you have like a note from your mother?
Yeah. Well, so Pogo shows up, and Pogo is he's an awesome guy, but he's very humble. He's a very short guy. He's probably like 5'7", 5'6", kind of a Tom Cruise kind of a dude. But he walks in. He's got a little bit of a comb over thing going on,
Oh,
but he walks in very nicely, and he looks at me. He's like, "Hi, I'm Pogo." I'm like, "Hey, sir, Kemo, checking in." He's like, "Checking in to fly with us?" I'm like, "Yes, sir. Here's my stuff." But the whole thing was that I looked so young that they didn't believe that I was actually checking into the squadron, and it was just that.
All right, where's the cameras?
Yeah. They're looking for the joke.
So anyway, it all works out, but it was just kind of like, what the hell are you doing here, dude? And I just looked like I was 19, so they didn't know what to do with me. But Pogo was an Army Loach pilot, Army Cross, chest-wearing ninja that joined the Navy after his tour in Vietnam, and he was actually boss of the Blues in the A4, and then became our squadron commander after that.
No shit. And he was an Army Cross Medal recipient?
Yep. He is actually one of the speakers at SEER School on the West Coast.
Wow.
With regards to the Holy Days thing, because he was shot down, I shit you negative, like 6 to 7, 8 times in a Loach.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And evaded each time, never got captured. And he said the reason why he joined the Navy is because he got rescued, if you will, by the close air support that the incoming A7s or what it was provided him to get out of there. And he became there's like these epic F-14 pilots. I'll just try to be call sign only: Pogo, Rat, Whiskey, Rhino. I keep on going, but he was in that genre.
Okay.
And I had the pleasure of learning how to fight aircraft through getting my rear kicked in by people like him, and it was wonderful.
What was his position in the squadron when you checked in? Was he the OPSO?
Pogo was a skipper.
Oh, Pogo's the skipper. Okay.
Yeah, that's
okay.
correct.
Okay. I did.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I should.
Yeah, no worries. Pogo was a skipper, and the other guys were kind of like in his level, but just out in the fighter wing to other squadrons. But there were these epic level dudes, as you probably had in your world in the Harrier. I mean, you had these guys that were like, it's like the Clint Eastwood. There's Chuck Norris. There's Jean-Claude Van Damme, and there's Bruce Lee, and there's all these dudes.
Yeah, we had a couple Pee Wee Hermans too, but that's a whole.
Oh, we definitely had those. But those are the guys. If you had a chance to get your ass kicked by them, you learned a whole hell of a lot, and it really took me somewhere from there.
So you checked into VF-31, and how long were you in that first squadron?
A little shorter than most because it was the time where BRAC, I don't even know what it stands for.
Base Realignment and Closure Commission, BRAC.
The fact that you know that, Fig, is
no, it's because it came up in an earlier
previous
podcast
show,
and we had to define it.
Well, there you go. It's that, and so El Toro got shut down, so the Marines got to retake their original base of Miramar, because it was originally a Marine Corps base, but the Navy was able to take it and make it Fighter Town USA and turn it into like this extremely sexy porn star level base. And then
Hollywood did that for you. Hollywood did that.
Right. It was amazing.
Well, okay. So how long were you there?
At VF-31 in Miramar, I was there from 92 to 96 or so.
Oh shit. That's
93 let's call it 93
years,
to 96, 97. Yeah.
That's a decent
but so when the BRAC happened, they moved Top Gun from Fighter Town USA to a place called Fallon, Nevada.
We're familiar with Fallon. Yeah.
As you should be, because as we grew up, that was an auxiliary field. That's where you went and got gas, maybe, and then dropped bombs and then left. Well, they made it a major base after this whole BRAC thing happened. So Miramar went away. Fighters go to where their respective places. Top Gun goes to Fallon, and Miramar goes to everything Marine Corps from El Toro, and every rotary, C-130, Hornet, all that stuff is there.
Were you in VF-31 when they went to Fallon?
I'm in my fleet squadron in VF-31, and the BRAC's happening. So what the Navy has done is moved all of the fighter squadrons of the F-14 and everything else to Oceania for the most part. Okay. And I was like, hey, Skipper, I would really not like to go East Coast because I really want to do this, not necessarily Top Gun thing, but all of my mentors from Whiskey and the various people that mentored me in my squadron were homesteading Miramar guys. They would do a fleet tour. They'd come back to becoming an adversary, to fleet tour, to go to Top Gun, then go back to fleet. That's so, and they were there. They flew like multiple airplanes, and I was like, that's what I want to do. Oh my gosh. Well, that whole thing gets destroyed. Top Gun goes to Fallon. But luckily, my current skipper at the time is Nasty's coming in as XO. Possum is my skipper. And he was like talking to Tojo, who's my detailer. He's like, you got to go to the RAG to be an instructor. I was like, I don't want to go to the RAG. I want to go to do this Top Gun adversary thing. And they're like, nope, no can do. If you don't accept RAG orders, you're going to go to the training command and be a T2 or an A4 instructor. And I'm like, okay, that sounds good too. Because I really want to go there because I knew me. Remember, I was the guy that knew nothing. And the dude that was like the instructors were like throwing stuff at because I was so stupid. And I remembered how I was. And I was like, I can't teach that. I can't do that. But I can teach people.
I don't even know it. I can't teach it.
Right? But I know that if I went to Top Gun or if I went to like that whole world, I knew that I could teach people that knew how to fly. I could teach them how to fly better. That's where I wanted to be. Luckily, better lucky than good. After talking to my detailer, we're on cruise, and the skipper Possum comes up. He's like, "Hey, so what do you say?" He's like, "I'm thinking, fuck, boss. I'm probably going to go to the training command because I don't want to go to Oceania. I kind of want to stay on the West Coast, but we're obviously leaving. I really want to go and do what Dog and Whiskey and all those guys have done. That's been my life's blood since I met these guys. 3 years of my life. It's all I've wanted to do because they've done stuff that is just dreamy, and it's what every fighter guy wants to do. So I'm sure Possum had some great input. He probably did some end around, reach around, kind of talk around kind of a thing. And next thing you know, I get an email back while I'm on cruise, and they're like, you want to go to Top Gun? And I was like, oh. So then I had another 5 minutes.
Hold on. I got to stop you right there. You mean, hold on a second. You You weren't like in trouble, standing outside the skipper's door. And then he calls you and you Rio in and he says like, I can't believe it, but I have to give you your shot. Your
team shot. No.
Yeah. It didn't happen like that.
I was probably the duty officer making popcorn in the back of 88, and skipper kind of was like, "Hey, stop making popcorn. You want to go to this Adversary Top Gun thing?" He's like, "Yeah, I really would." He's like, "All right, I can hook you up." So, and the next thing you know, I got an email from my detail going, "How would you like to do this?" After the whole, "You're not doing this forever."
Yeah, weird, right?
Next thing you know, it's like, "Hey, would you like to go to Top Gun and become an adversary at whatever?" I'm like, "Yes, please." So I took the orders. I ended up going to Fallon, and I was fortunate enough to go to Top Gun, and then ended up at Squadron VFC-13 St. Adversary, where we flew F-5s, a very old, wonderful airplane that could still kick the crap out of a non-educated port pilot. Right. It was wonderful.
Okay.
Right?
Slow down. We got to back up.
Slowing down.
We got to back up just a little bit.
Back it up.
Okay, so after you left VF-31, did you ever fly F-14s again?
No, I did not.
All right. So how many hours in the F-14 did you end up with?
Literally 1,011 hours.
Wow. So was it 3 years in your gun squadron?
Yep. And enough to get my 1,000 hour patch. Barely. I got 200 day traps, and thankfully never got a night Centurion patch. I don't know how many night traps I had, but it was
repeat. Are you doing the math with me, bro?
Yeah, too many.
Are you kidding me? Okay. I'm not even going to go there, but I'm glad you got all that flying time in your gun squadron, because that's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's back up. I have to ask you a specific question.
Okay.
About your VF-31 gun squadron experience. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
So you did mention that Nasty showed up to be the XO at some point.
Yep.
Did you guys ever have squadron parties or anything like that?
Yes, sir.
So was there ever a time where there was maybe a squadron party at Nasty's house, and maybe you went into the bathroom with your wife and
girlfriend?
Or I'm sorry. Well, it's probably his wife.
His wife at my time. It's the wife at this time. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So the question is, what in the F happened to the shower curtain? Why was the shower curtain completely ripped off after you left the bathroom? That's what we want to know.
Honestly, Fig, I do not recall why, but I'm glad it did.
That's pretty much what Nasty thinks.
Okay, that's a lawsuit.
Yes. All I can say is when I showed up to Nasty's house, I saw the Bug Roach award trophy in his living
describe
room.
that. Hey, will you describe that, please?
I walk into his living room, and there is this massive, it's like the Heisman Trophy plus 10 picture of a landing signals officer, and also with his paddles out in bronze.
Is it a picture or is it like a statue?
It's a statue. It's a statue on
it's like the Stanley Cup, right? Like a giant 3-dimensional
massive thing. And I walked in with my jaw agape, kind of going, what in the God's name is this? And it was I think it was the Bug Roach Award.
Yeah, he was the first recipient.
Yeah, and I learned a lot that evening. And he proceeded to tell us about all that. And
what the fuck happened?
It was just, bro. He was a great man because he's so humble yet so awesome. Yet so good looking, we hated him because he was so good looking and prosperous and awesome and all of that. I'm like, oh my God.
So you decided you were going to just go in and rip his shower curtain off the thing because of that. Is that right? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
I can't
because he thinks you and your wife were having sex in there and ripped the shower curtain off. I don't know. I'm just saying.
It's a function of defining what is.
Right on.
And
all right, we don't need to go there anymore. That's okay.
Okay,
right,
thanks.
I'm just gonna. I'm gonna say
just having some fun at your expense. If everyone goes to our website, so there I was.us, and goes to episode 17, there's a picture of the Bug Roach Award.
Oh yeah, that's right. And while we're talking about this, real quick, Kemo, when you're able, Send as many pictures as you can. So we can put them on the of your pictures, anything you have.
Yeah.
From your fleet tours, from your Top
ripping
Gun
down
tours,
shower curtains,
shower curtain tours. Yeah,
You guys. Oh my goodness. So, whew.
all right. I interrupted you. And,
No worries.
So you got to go to Top Gun, but before we go there, since at this point you're not flying the F-14 anymore, in bullet form, how'd you like flying that jet?
It's still to this day my most favorite airplane ever to fly.
Okay, and tell us why. As aviators, why? Tell me what it flew like.
So I didn't know what to compare it to. All I knew was, for me, it was just amazing. I mean, to be at 500 feet on the deck and plant the afterburner and pull the stick back, go full vertical, and all of a sudden go, wow, I should probably level off now because I'm decreasing through, 250 knots at 30,000 feet. I should probably start leveling off. It was an amazing airplane. The GE motor made the F-14 Delta the most amazing airplane known to man. It carried a ton of gas and it could go twice as fast as the Hornet. And when we were doing exercises and birds were away and whatnot, you didn't even have to go to afterburner. Going to milk power, you could just watch yourself disappear from the Hornets that were on your wing.
No way.
They were like, hey, hold up. And we're like, nope. It was kind of that whole bear buddy thing. It's like,
yeah,
I'm going faster than you, so good luck. It was an amazing airplane. We hosted and did a lot of air combat maneuvering, basic fighter maneuvering kind of sorties with the Canadians, all sorts of people. And one of my most enjoyable hops was doing air combat maneuvering with Canadian Air Force, the 442, which was a Hornet squadron out of Cold Lake. And I flew with the skipper as a young JG, because remember, I'm junior as hell. And we set up for an air combat maneuvering sortie. And luckily, I had the mentoring of Pogo and Whiskey and Rhett and a lot of guys that taught me through hard knocks how to fight this airplane. And it was great to take this huge Tomcat, as everybody talked about, the flying Dorito
It's as
ship.
big as a damn, listen, I'll be honest, it's as big as a tennis court.
It's huge. They called it, it was the Dorito chip, the flying tennis court.
Yeah, it's as big as a tennis court. I mean, actually, as big as a tennis court. With the wings out and nose to tail, it's a tennis court.
Absolutely. But there were evolutions that I watched these epic aviators teach me through mentoring, but I would watch them after I'm dead, getting shot, and I would watch them destroy these amazing airframes.
Yeah, fourth generation fighters, basically, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They would destroy them. And I would literally learn through beer via the club how to do what you do. And there's one maneuver, we call it the rolling scissors. It's a roller. It's a vertical fight, if you will. And there's a maneuver called the pirouette that I don't know if they can teach. I don't know how to teach it because it's literally everything goes against everything because, it's like you're almost departed, but you're doing this, you're putting inputs in. And once you feel this whole departure, stop, do the other thing. And you would be able to really maneuver the airplane.
Somebody taught you this, right?
Yes.
Somebody taught you in the F-14. And since there's no 2-seat F-14s that have dual controls, they're teaching you this from another airplane while you're fighting them, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, the Rios, as much as I can give Rios shit for like being a waste of 1,000 pounds of gas or whatever.
Actually, there's no Rios that weigh 1,000 pounds. Maybe 250 at the most, right?
Maybe 250.
Yeah, but that whole cockpit will probably hold 1,000 pounds of gas.
That whole
Just
cockpit.
Okay. You're right.
Cockpit existence is about 1,000 pounds of gas.
Sure.
I would gladly take 1,000 pounds of gas, but I will tell you this: those
for
guys
the Rios that were good mentors.
Those guys didn't necessarily know how to put the plane where it needed to be. They just told you where it needed to be. So if you could interpret that and put the plane where it needed to be because they knew, you could capitalize on this stuff. So it was very, 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 very educational. And, from the single pilot guys, like, I don't need a backseater. Yeah, I agree. I mean, when I got to the F5 and I flew the F5 for 11 years, I realized how much my situational awareness expanded because I didn't have another peanut to go through to get information distributed, transmit information. But their existence and knowing where things needed to be and how it needed to be, I knew how to get there. And so they were very instrumental in a lot of my development. And I tell you what, they, as much as you can give shit to NFOs or Rios or Wizzos, if they were experienced, they knew their shit. And it was
they're there for a reason. They're there for a reason. That's no doubt. And they're easy to pick on.
Absolutely. It's great to pick on them because we've got to pick on somebody.
Yeah, right?
Exactly. And, RePete and I, we never had to deal with that. So we gave every Rio or every BN or every ECMO that we ever met shit. Because
as you should.
It was like, hey, I got 500 traps. I'm like, no, your nav bag has 500 traps. You were just riding along, you dumb bastard.
Dude, even my wife was like, you didn't fly shit. You sat there, motherfucker.
That's it. And as a fighter pilot's wife should say.
Dude,
okay.
Or girlfriend.
Yep.
Let me back up for just a second. You were talking about almost departing. What you mean by that is departure from controlled flight. So that means, the airplane is stalled, and it can stall in any attitude, angle, that sort of thing. You can be inverted and stall because the wing quits flying, and that is departure from controlled flight. And that's when you're going ballistic, Mav. Actually, that is ballistics completely unloaded, but that's a whole different thing. Unloaded flight, not zero G. Yeah, I guess it is zero G's, isn't it? There's no lift being generated.
Yep.
But departure from control flight is what we mean by departing.
Right.
And usually that winds up bad. Winds up with someone on your backside shooting at you.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. All
right. VFC 13 F5s.
Yeah.
So do you go through the Top Gun course before you become an aggressor? How's that work?
So there's various ways. When I actually got orders to VFC 13, and they sent me to Top Gun after that, where I became an adversary instructor, and basically was an instructor in air combat maneuvering and all of the threat tactics, threat pilot, threat counter.
So here's what I want you to hit on for our listeners that are not fighter pilots, which probably most of them aren't. So you went to a squadron that specializes in air-to-air combat as somebody that is going to be against us, an enemy, right?
Absolutely, yes.
And so when you say you became an instructor, well, you turned around and taught other instructors in that squadron how to fly like a Russian MiG-23 or so expand on that.
Sure. So our role is very slightly broad. We did what you just said, Fig. I mean, with regards to teaching those folks air combat tactics with regards to our threat, but we also did a lot of training with the RAG, or the replacement air group, and we would fly with new oncoming new Hornet pilots per se, or whoever, and we would be the dissimilar aircraft that would provide a simulation for a MiG-23, a MiG-21, a MiG-29, or whatever, and it just depended on the syllabus that they were learning to, and we were forced to abide by the rules of the performance of those aircraft. So
you have to fly it like it was one of those airplanes. So only this much turn rate, only this much pitch rate.
Exactly.
Right. You were simulating a different airplane.
Absolutely. So we wouldn't do our best fight every time. We would do the fight that was directed by the syllabus, so they could do dissimilar Cat 3, Cat 4, or whatever. This airplane bled this much in a turn, but was superior in this capability.
Whoa! You're using some big terms there. Sorry. So explain what you mean by bleed in a turn, for example.
So bleed in a turn. So degrees per second.
What degrees per second? As in temperature? What the hell are you talking about?
Right. So the amount of
Pretend
the amount
I'm not a pilot. You got to
There you go.
explain this shit to me.
so if there was a sortie that was required to be, hey, this is a Cat 3 sortie, for example.
All right. And so what's the difference between a Cat 3 and
the category 1, 2, 3, 4 would determine the performance capability of the airplane.
Okay. So the higher the category, the better the performance type thing?
Absolutely. Theoretically. Okay. And so, hey, today you're going to be this type of airplane, which would be in the Cat 3 envelope, let's say. So you would go and provide a performance, not exhibition, but a performance demonstration based on those performance characteristics.
Yeah.
To that level.
You're taking an airplane that's fully capable of maybe more, but you're going to perform it less because you're performing it like the airplane you're supposed to be.
Correct.
Okay, that's awesome, right?
So it's like, you can do, when you hit the merge, you could turn this much and you can perform this many G's for X amount of turn. And at that point, then you're only limited to this airspeed, this configuration, this whatever. And
so this is pretty awesome because you're describing, you're a dial a bogey. Dial a bad guy, dial it to whatever we need you to be, and that's what you're going to do.
That's what we try to do.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And what about tactics? Talk about tactics.
Tactics wise, we would, if the scenario was, this country versus that country, and we were that country, we would limit ourselves to maneuvering or being controlled by air control that would limit us to that function. So we might have a whole ton more SA or situational awareness, but we would limit ourselves to do A, B, and C because this is all technically we're capable of doing.
Right.
Does that make sense? So so we would do A, B, and C, and we would limit ourselves to maneuver, to execute, to employ tactics in that limitation. And so, go ahead. Sorry.
Nope. Don't keep going.
So that's what we would do. So even though we would see or we could do, we would limit ourselves to, well, technically we can't do that because we're in this scenario.
Right.
So we're going to let this happen.
Yeah. Okay. So
for instance, if you're in a country or playing a country that has ground-based controller that control the skies, then you followed only what the ground-based controllers would tell you, even though you could see other things that were going on.
Absolutely. If you're totally controlled by ground control, that's what you do. And unless you pick up visually some sort of thing happening, you were totally controlled by that control authority. So.
I can tell you from personal experience, I did a 2v2 this similar with guys from what was the was it VF-126? Was that an aggressor?
No. Yeah, 126 for sure.
Yeah, at Fallon.
Yeah, VF-126 was actually at Miramar, but it changed after that.
So this would have been RePete. We were deployed to Fallon for a combined ACE deployment. We did a bunch of stuff while we were there, but I did a 2v2 with these guys. Was it VF-126 or VF-127? They were the aggressors. They were based there because we briefed and they're ready. And these guys came to the brief wearing Russian flight suits, had Russian patches on with Russian names. And of course, they were both F-14 guys, probably blonde-haired, blue-eyed, poster child, like Kemo here.
Hey, don't be racist.
Whoa. And it was the most professional type brief. They said we're simulating a MiG-23, yada yada yada. And we went out and we did these engagements, and they flew the airplane like a MiG-23. And we did 3 different engagements, and we had 3 different outcomes. But my takeaway from that was, wow, these guys were the shit. They were very professional. We came back and we debriefed, and it was nothing personal. This is how it went. This is what happened. Yeah. And I mean, I learned a ton, but as a side note, on the very first engagement, we downgraded into 2 1v1s. Another, my wingman was fighting one guy. I was fighting another guy. I was with Otto, by the way, RePete.
Yeah.
And I'm in a 1 circle with this aggressor guy, and we're spiraling down towards the deck. And I'm looking up through my canopy at him, and he's looking at me, and we're so close, I can see his knee board on his thigh. And I notice as we're spiraling down there's a lot of smoke coming out of one of his motors. And so I remember this. And in the debrief, and I said, hey, by the way, I remember seeing some smoke coming out of your motor. And he goes, very nonchalantly, he says to me, yeah, I had flame out. But in the process of fighting you, I got it started again. So I didn't see a need to knock it off. So he's kicking my ass basically with one motor out of two, and he does the relight. Yeah. So very professional. So I have nothing but the utmost respect for that. So for that type of thing. So speaking of that, that's a nice segue. Did you ever have your hand on the ejection handle lever? Or what kind of crazy? All right, let's talk about that.
Did you pull it, or did you just touch it to make sure?
Did you touch it because you wanted to? Or?
There was a touch to make sure it was still there. Okay, so, right. It was very comforting. But so there's opportunities in naval aviation, Marine Corps aviation, to become reserve aviators in squadrons, and a lot of times when you do that, there's opportunities for flying a whole ton or flying a whole knot. I'm going to allude this to like maybe a lack of currency per se, but we're in the Fallon complex, and I'm in the F5.
You're in the Fallon complex. Define that for our listeners.
Fallon complex is basically, I'll call it a MOA of a gajillion square miles of airspace that we can fly to do air to air, air to ground, do whatever, and provide training for our Navy and Marine Corps brothers.
A lot of wide open desert in western Nevada there.
Full up. Yeah. But I'm in the northwest quadrant of this whole thing, which really doesn't have anything to do with anything other than we get into an engagement. This is like full disclosure, never done before. I get into a maneuver with a fighter that requires me to do something that I'm thinking that I want to do. I know it's vague, but bear with me. I want to go into a position where I go to idle and go to full speed brakes out or boards out. But because I have other professional training, my mechanics for my hand are doing things that are different. So I want to go to idle and full boards. In the F5, I come over the top of a roller and I go to idle and I go to full boards in my mind. But I don't even know how to explain it, because in the Airbus, for example, you have to lift your front fingers and pull back to reverse, right? To slow down and do whatever.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I'm going to assume you're talking about hands on stick and throttle.
Yes, I am.
The different buttons and different things, right?
Yes, I am.
And I'm assuming that muscle memory kind of took over, and you were doing something that you would normally do in a different airplane.
Another airplane.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. That's correct. Okay. Go.
Now we're back on track with you.
I'm going through a rolling scissors maneuver, and I'm over the top. We're going vertical, and I want to go to idle and manipulate my aircraft in a pirouette maneuver. But as I do that, I pull.
I wish our listeners on the podcast could see you.
Could see the hand movements on video.
Or you are doing the fighter pilot thing like you read about. You got to go to Rubble.
I think he just shot his watch.
It's the best thing ever.
I'm going over the top, and as I do this, I want full boards right now. So as I do that, I actually grab the idle lockouts of the F5 and pull them to off.
You shut the motors off.
I basically shut down the airplane on the top of my roller, because in my mind, my left hand wants speed brakes.
Yes,
but it's reversers.
It's the wrong airplane.
It's bad.
It's the wrong airplane.
It's bad.
Yeah, because you're used to the Airbus. Yes,
I'm on top of my roller, and I shut down my entire airplane with two motors.
Yeah,
completely shut down.
Okay.
And as I do it, and once it happens, I go, holy shit, because I realized at that point. But at the time, it was like instinctive, like, this is what I want.
No.
And I realized I now have no motors because I've shut down both of my motors in the F5 at 32,000 feet or whatever it is. And I'm over the northwest quadrant of the Fallon complex, which is basically nothing. It's like the Arctic as far as I'm concerned.
Did you take a shot or not? That's all I want to know.
Not yet. No, I did not. I did not die, which is great. So the guy at the bottom, I shoot him as I'm losing power, and he dies. And I realize, holy shit! And in the F5, all you have to do is go to afterburner. So you select afterburner, you go full throttle, and the igniters automatically kick up. And thank God, one motor comes online. And it was the most, there's a whole lot of issues going on in my mind. Academic, cerebral, psychological, physiological. I'm not sure. I'm like, holy shit. And then the other engine is compressor stalling. And I come back single engine to Fallon. And they're like, oh, yeah, hey. I just lost the motor. Okay, good. But in my mind, I'm like, dude, I just shut off both motors because I thought I was in an Airbus. I don't even know what
that is awesome. All right, so did you disclose that to your the guy you were fighting?
Negative, because I shot him and he died.
He never
before
asked.
I figured out that I did that.
Good man.
But yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. That was completely embarrassing, and I had to disclose it. But there's a few times, and Fig, I feel comfortable with you, so I figured I'd just disclose that now. I fucked the hell out of that entire thing.
That was going to be the next question because the guy that you were fighting already told me to ask you that question.
Oh, really? Did he, Fig?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, he did.
What did he say?
He said, and make sure Kemo discloses the fact that he beat me because he had taken the advantage of no thrust.
Yeah,
on the
zero
F5.
thrust. Zero thrust, because I shut down both motors because I'm a fucking idiot.
Hey, this is completely separate. We're not even in Top Gun. We're not doing aggressors. Kemo.
Yo.
Call sign Kemo.
Ugh.
Where did that come from?
Dude, that's a long story. Okay, fine. I'll tell you because I love you as a brother. But
we're at $1.15. We can close it out with that.
My wife was initially, she had this thing. She called me Kemo from like the very beginning, which had nothing to do with anything other than like it was like this thing. She's like, hey, Kemo, whatever. Like Kemosabe, right? My father, Christian. My mother, devout Buddhist. Before I could get married, I had to go through this rite of passage process through this Buddhist methodology to give her grace and thanks for being my mother. I'm in flight school in Kingsville, and before I could marry my wife, I had to do this thing. I'm like, fine, I will do this, Mom. I will do it. So they in the Buddhist thing, they shaved my head and they shaved my eyebrows, and I went through a Buddhist little process.
What? Whoa.
Yep.
Whoa. So this is like right after you got winged?
No, before I got winged. Way before. I actually got my hair back enough to have like a little high and tight, little flat top. But that's where it started. But ironically, it's weird. My wife was like a Kemosabe person.
Kemosabe is in Long Ranger Kemosabe.
Right. Yeah. For whatever reason, that's what she did. And I was like, cool, I'm your Kemosabe. You know, I'll be your Tonto. But on the second side was my mother, and so before I could marry my wife, I had to go through this process to pay her homage or whatever. So I was like, okay, fine. So I did that, and before I could finish the process, I finished training. I went to go do this thing for my mom. They shaved my head. They shaved my eyebrows. And if you can imagine showing up to your squadron in a bag with bald head, no eyebrows.
No.
And I walked in, and literally the first person that was the ODO, the operations duty officer, and the SDO. Right. And they were like, oh, what the hell was... And they were like, hey, what's up? They're like, what happened to you? I'm like, well, I had this thing. I wanted to marry my wife. It didn't matter. And so my wife, before all this happened, always used to call me Kemo for Kemosabe.
Right.
Neither here nor there. So they were like, dude, chemotherapy, holy shit. Because I had no hair, no eyebrows whatsoever.
Right. Chemotherapy.
but as sailors and Marines with crayons and pictures, they didn't know how to spell chemotherapy, so they spelled it Kemo.
Right. And that's what it is. And that's where it came from.
So I'm like, okay, but I didn't know any better. So I was Kemo because of that experience. And as I progressed through life, it morphed into Kemosabe, which was wonderful because I realized, okay, I obviously didn't fuck up that bad because
there are a lot worse ways to get call signs.
You didn't get a call sign change after you hit the fleet, which is probably good.
Exactly.
Good.
So Kemo stuck, and so Kemosabe has been my call sign since the beginning. So thanks, I guess, because I didn't get anything.
It could have been flame out. Could have been
could have been
off.
Right.
It could have been so much more.
It could have been just NavCAD. Right.
Yeah, it could be anything. I lucked out. again, better lucky than good, right, gents? And
yes, every time, buddy.
That's kind of how it happened, man. I've had a couple. I've got my cruise call signs and some war call signs, but that was based on other things that we will not disclose here because it's obviously.
There you go.
All right, how many flight hours as a adversary pilot?
Yeah.
What type of airplanes did you fly other than the F5?
F5 and F16. I did an air guard tour with the Tacos back when they had jets and flew with the F16 there, but mainly F5 and the F16.
And how many hours in the F5, buddy?
Almost 2,000. I think it's 1,800 hours.
Okay.
Which is crazy because, as you know, with the F5 doesn't carry a lot of gas, so every sortie was maybe an hour to hour and a half.
Well, that's what I was getting at. That's a lot of getting in and getting out of that jet.
Yeah.
Because let's just call it an hour. That's 2,000 times in and out of that cockpit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Back in the day, you could go to squadron and literally it would be this grinder. One of my bros would walk by. They're like, "Hey, you want to try to kick my ass? You want to start something? Like, let's start something." They pick up the phone, call me, and say, "Hey, you got a jet? You got two? Cool. Do you schedules? All right, put them on schedule." And we would like run to the plane, launch, go into Fallon, do a 1v1, come back an hour later, and we'd be in the club an hour and a half later drinking beer, talking about our shit.
Oh my gosh! And then, okay, hey, on an average day when you were a adversary pilot, how many times a day did you fly?
2.
Average.
If not 3, but 2 for me and my peers. Awesome. We were on the schedule once. We'd add 2 and try to get 3.
Oh my gosh!
Awesome.
Can you imagine that repeat?
Oh man, no kidding. Think how good we would have been in that airplane if we'd have gotten to fly it that much.
Right. Oh, you take off and you're in the area.
You like check in and you say, "Hey, what airspace do you have?" "Oh, we got this open. That's closed." We just find the open spot, go fight, come back.
Real quick, in as brief and non-classified terms as you can describe, can you describe to our listeners what a tax range is and what it does for it?
What does that stand for? Repeat tactical air.
Computed telemetry.
Yeah.
Feedback.
I see what you're doing there, Kemo. That's very sneaky. You have a pod on your airplane. They strap a little pod on the airplane. Usually it's out on the missile rail. And there are sensors out in the area on ridge lines and mountaintops that connect with this pod, and it sends back 3-dimensional pictures of what your airplane is doing so that you can sit in a theater and watch your buddies fly and fight. Did I describe that good enough?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. They have telemetry everywhere. They can see what you're doing. And I will have to say that it's good unless you're supersonic and then they can't keep up with you. And one of the best things that happened to me in one of my lives up there was that we were too fast for them to keep up with, because if they did, I'd be in a lot more trouble than I've ever been before.
Okay, so when you're supersonic, the telemetry can't keep up. What, you just disappear off the screen while you were supersonic? How would that work?
Kind of like when you're talking to us.
Okay, scenario 17.
I think you might have been supersonic for about a minute there, bro, because you were gone.
You know
I
what?
couldn't even see you.
You know what, Fig? Yeah, I love you too. So in this scenario, this actually happened. It's kind of funny. I'm the junior most guy at VF-31. My skipper, Possum, love the man to death to the end of days. We're in Fallon, and it's Nevada, so there's a lot of extracurricular activities you can have. We have a strike the next day. It's part of our syllabus to go through when we're there. The adversaries are going to oppose us. We've got bombs to put on target. We've got a lot of stuff going on. We're rolling it up, man, and we've got our rules. And all I remember is Possum coming up to me and saying, "Hey, Kilo, you got the skipper watch?" I said, "Yes, sir. Roger that." We end up at a place called Salt Wells.
Oh, whoa. We're familiar with that, aren't we? Repeat?
Never heard of it.
Never. I don't.
I'm just saying, you don't need to go there. We're good.
It sounds like malt smells.
Yeah. And it's a lot like that.
Yeah. And we get there, and we go there because the beer's cheap. We can actually do briefings and stuff. And, whatever. People have some tours and whatnot. Doesn't matter. But we are there for a while, barring the fact that we have a 6 a.m. brief the next day. But I've got the skipper watch, and there's a 4-ship, which means 4 airplanes that are going to go out and do this air-to-air, air-to-ground thing the next day. Regardless, we are drinking way too late and way too much, and we wake up way too early, and we have to go there. We have to do this 4-ship battle box ingress egress kind of thing out of Fallon. We realize halfway through, it's kind of funny. Our flight lead, I'm -3, so we're in this battle box, and I'm in the back, so I'm -3. All I realized, I look at my stuff, I'm looking at the automation, I'm like, hey, bud, I think we're late. He's like, what? And we look and I realize we're like 20 minutes late. We're so jacked. It's ridiculous. We'd elect to like pull our circuit breakers for the tax range and like make a little shortcut over the mountains to the other side, because we're supposed to go up and back down in the target range, drop bombs, and be heroes, right? Well, we start off because we're still trying to recover from the morning prior. We go and we realize, holy shit, dude, we're late. And he realizes that. It's like, so we all pull our tax circuit breakers, so now no one can see us. Let's just cut across halfway through. We'll meet these guys over here. And we just basically cut out half the route. And we cut out half the route, and the adversaries at the time have no idea where we are, because we're supposed to do this route, and they're waiting for us in this way. They're like, okay, at this time they're going to come this way. Well, we totally blow it off. We blow it off because we're so late that we just want time on target. So we cut it off, pull our circuit breakers. We get across to the next ravine, push our circuit breakers back in, and go, whew, here we are, see ya. And we actually shoot these guys down, get to the target area, and get our bumps on target. And yay, we're heroes. But it's all complete bullshit. Because
the fact that you knew where the circuit breakers were is impressive enough. I had, I don't know the F-14. Was there circuit breakers that we could actually reach, repeat?
Dude,
I don't remember any.
I think we had a half a dozen or so, but I don't think they
Top Gun
handled that.
Maverick too. There's like 300 circuit breakers in the back seat. It's like there's
that's
all
the
over the
Airbus.
place.
That's a different airplane. That's the Airbus.
Right?
Oh my God.
Right?
So no kidding. Well, we've been going almost an hour and a half here, so we need to start looking at wrapping it up. But this is great stuff. Hopefully you're going to come back and tell us some more funny stuff.
I would love to.
Yeah.
So I would love to, guys. You guys are awesome.
Well, let me just say this, Kemo.
Go.
Thank you for your service to the Navy. Thank
you
for your almost service to the Marine Corps. The fact that you went to Marine Corps Officer Candidate School, you're like a half a Marine, which is pretty good. Thank you for your service, and thank you for everything that you've done for our country, and also for the service of our fellow naval aviators, because you're an integral part in training. I don't know
ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, you were the deal. You were the real deal.
Well,
you were
I'll tell you what.
You were the real deal when it came to adversaries.
Thanks, brother. Well, I'm going to turn it around to you guys. I mean, without this podcast, I don't know how I would feel, but the fact that you have this has been so amazingly wonderful to fall back on and think about things that we've done together. You guys, it's amazing. So I thank you for having this podcast.
Yeah, brother.
Thank you very much. That means a lot. We hope that our listeners are having half as much fun as we are, because this has just been amazing. Getting to sit back and reflect on some of this and getting some of these stories told that would otherwise never get out there.
Ever.
It's just been something beyond believable. So thank you indeed. And thank you to your wife for her service and her sacrifice over the years.
Yep.
I have to thank her as well. You're right.
Make sure that you tell her I said I think she's a very special woman and probably doesn't deserve you, but that's okay.
She does not deserve me at all. At all. Period. Thanks, Fig, brother.
Yeah. Our gratitude also goes out this week to our sponsor, Robin's Bird Brain Designs. You can get custom laser etched coasters, custom laser etched Christmas gifts, ornaments, that sort of thing. Easter's coming up, Valentine's Day coming up. She has all kinds of custom stuff. So if you need to get a gift for somebody, reach out to robinsbirdbraindesigns.com. Thanks also to Dave Hamilton over at the Mac Geek Gab, who is the brains behind putting us together here. Yeah. Thanks also to, you hear the band playing in the background there. That's the Dos Gringos.
Those Gringos. Those guys. God
Are
dang.
they amazing or what?
The only reason I like the Air Force.
Right? Those guys give the Air Force a great name, and they were gracious enough to come on with us, and they were gracious enough to let us use their music. So anyway, what else can I say? But in the meantime, I want everybody to sit back, enjoy the outro music, check 6, and stay safe. We'll see you next week.
Cheers, brothers. See ya. See ya.
there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the shit I was wearing on that day. Now an F-16 is cramped enough, but it's even worse with all that stuff supposed to save your life. But we knew there was no way. Cause when you're going down in the North Atlantic, man,
it's over.
Why, you Kemo Sabe.
Kemo Sabe? That sounds familiar.
That's right, Kemo Sabe. You trusty scout.
Trusty scout?
Yes, Ranger. Long time back, when we both young. Me remember time Indian camp burned. You found me, nursed me back to health, saved me from dying. Me call you Kemo Sabe. It mean trusty scout. Me never forget you. You remember now?
Yes. You're Tonto.
That's right. Me Tonto.